Originally, well, you back up long enough, you tied a cow up to a tree in the yard and milked her by hand. But then as the dairy business progressed and farmers started producing more milk and milking more cows, they housed them in stanchions where you had to haul everything to the cow and everything away. They were tied to those stanchions, usually 24 hours, at least 23 hours a day. Fortunately, in our case, we had a concrete barn lot. Even in the wintertime, we could turn them out for an hour, give them some exercise. But it was so labor intensive that my dad, the hired man, and we milked, I think, around 20 cows all we could milk. Well, we had to get away from that because the cost, the labor intensive part of it. So we went to loose housing, where we just built a huge barn like this and bedded it with straw, and the cows laid there all day long. You had big feed bunks outside, so you got away from hauling the feed from them. You had to bring them in and put them in the stanchions and milk them. So eventually we got away from that, and we got into the free stall, where we built stalls in these big loafing barns, and the cows had to step up into the stall. It was bedded with straw or grain or sand. In some cases, they made bedding and made beds for them out of rubber, hard rubber, and anyway, something for them to lay on. So if they stood up, and the manure dropped out in the pit in a stall behind the stall. So we went through there with a tractor a couple of times a day, scraped it out, up a ramp into the spreader. So you got away from hauling all that stuff. But you still took them in the barn to milk them. So eventually they got away from that, and they started building elevated milking parlors, where the cows walked into an elevated about 36 inches high, and the milkers stood in between them. They had 2 or 3 or 4 on each side, so you switch back and forth. That got away from hauling all the milk. So eventually they got away from that to where they built circular parlors, which that moved. The cows moved up onto it, and it moved slowly around, and you put the milkers on, and they got around the other side, they were done. And the cows walked out. And that's usually that's the latest type. And as I pointed out, we've got some people that are milking 3,000 cows 3 times a day. And they get away from the bulk tank because it goes directly over a cold plate into the truck. Takes it when it gets full, take the dairy. So it's we milked 50 cows. My wife and I today we'd starve to death. We just couldn't. You got, and the other technical part, which is so important. In 1935, we started breeding cows artificially. That meant we had sperm from proven bulls, which takes 6 to 8 years to prove a bull, to prove he has a genetic possibility to increase the bone structure, improves the dairy up, the milk producing, increase the health of the cow. It takes a long time to prove a bull. Those bills run anywhere from $50,000 to $500,000. You keep them in a bull stud, you collect the sperm from them and mix it with egg white, and then freeze it, and it goes out in small vials. The technician in each county, or a farmer if he wants to do his own, buys the vials. And but what has happened in that process, several things: improved feeding, improved breeding, but the key to improving milk production is in the management. They got, I think I mentioned we started out testing cows in the 20s, around 3,000 pounds of milk per cow. The last figures I saw are in 08 or 09, 30,000 pounds of milk per cow. That sounds great, and it is. However, the management of those cows is far more important. You got to watch that cow as she walks in the milking parlor, how she holds her head, how her eyes look, are hers forward, are they back. When a cow gets sick, there's no cure, she's dead. If you wait till she goes down sick, you can't, there's enough money to bring her back. So you've got to observe that cow as an individual, her individual characteristic, how she holds her head, how she looks, how she sticks her nose to the feed bucket. So it takes three things. It takes improved feeding, improved beating, and improved management. I'm not sure I could handle 3,000 cows. You know, I'm not sure I could. I think it tested my ability to handle 50. We had 100 head raising our own replacements. But and it's only the beginning. It's just the beginning, you know. The technology improves by the square rather than the multiple. 2 and 2 is 4, 4 and 4 is 8, 4 times 4 is 16. There's where your technology, both in farming and industry and in education, and where you go. We got up 4:45 every morning. We tried to milk as close to 5 o'clock morning and night. Now, we had so much going on, my wife and I, in the evenings, we couldn't hang around the barn until 9 o'clock like a lot of farmers did. So we milked 4:45 in the morning and 4:30, 4:45 at night. So we were out of the barn usually by 7 or 7:30 unless something went wrong. So you're out a 14-hour day. Something goes wrong, it's a 24-hour day. You see the milker hanging up there. It's a bucket with 4 teats on it, tick tups on it, and it's a strap you put around the cow, and it hangs under her belly. So the tits are up and the tit cups are close to the udder. Now the other way we did it, we had our 5-gallon bucket set on the floor, had a hose about this long that went under the cow with the tits on it. So it's whatever you like, you know, you got a choice. But in the milking parlors, they have now they swing down, and they have right now they're developing automatic put on. I don't know how they do it, but we've had automatic takeoffs for years. When the milk stops flowing, it falls off, and the cow goes. So, like I said, technology it improves dramatically, makes a difference. You know, as a farmer, you're internally optimistic, but that is so beyond what you would think about back in those days. But you got the 3 things that you have to count on. If you fall down any of them, you're out of business. The typical story is when you milk by hand and you sat under the cow, she stuck her foot in the bucket. The hog's got a treat. I saw a picture at home the other day of this girl, an Amish girl, in a long dress, squatting down, milking a cow by hand. Now that's doing it the hard way. And when I was a kid, we had bulls. We bred with bulls. We started breeding artificially in the late 30s. And bulls, they're very gentle normally. They like to have their head scratched. You hang a big log in their pen, so they got something to play with. They butt that, it swings, hits them in the head, they butt it again. Then we had a cable 150 feet long, go from the light pole to the barn, and we had, the bull has a ring nose. So we take him out there once a day for an hour and a half or so, hook him so he couldn't lay down, and you had to walk back and forth, give him exercise. And I remember distinctly one time, the hired man, we had to take him grab him by the nose, take him out around and make a right turn, make 2 right turns, and then out the door to the left. Well, this one day the bull was following him just as gentle as could be, and they made the right turn, the bull went after him, and he fortunately missed the hired man, head went to the wall of the barn. He'd have been dead, you know, just that quick, and then he just stood there, went out and got hooked up. It's just a spur of the moment thing. That's one reason I think my dad liked to get rid of the bull. He's afraid of him. And he never let us kids go in the bull pen at all. Even though the bull was standing there and he butt the wall, once you scratch his head and fracture his ear. They're an animal, you never know. I think the first important thing, you got to have a college education. I didn't have one. Fortunately, my dad had a college education, and so he was involved with extension programs. So we usually got the word first when something had to need to be done. And I was kind of the black sheep of the family because my dad had a college education back at the early 1900s. His brother, at the same time, his brother was dean of the College of Agriculture and Home Economics at Kansas State for 25 or 30 years. And my dad originally wanted to be an extension agent, but his dad got sick, so he had to stay home and help in the farm. And about that time, his brother showed through research and extension programs that adding lime to the soil would increase production. The farm had got to the point where it wasn't producing hardly anything. The land was soil. There was very little education in those days. And so he brought back word. So my dad, he bought a ton of lime, and it was quick lime. And in the middle of summer, it turns sloppy. You can't shake it off. Well, you can't spread it in the machine. You have to shovel it. Every place a shovelful of that lime landed, the next spring had a beautiful stand of clover, where before all they had was timothy. So I think that helped to convince my dad that it might be hope for the home farm, fortunately for me. But it's just, we're fortunate we've had, in the middle 1800s, they planted the land-grant college, which created the College of Agriculture. And their mission was to educate the farmer and the homemaker. Then in the middle 18 or 1920, around then, they found the extension service, which carried the information back to the farm and to the home. And then in 1935, they established the Soil Conservation Service, which taught the farmer how to control the soil, keep it from washing away, blowing away. So you got all those great things that happened that made agriculture, that's what made agriculture the greatest economy in the world here in the United States. There's two things. They said a farmer either inherits a farm or marries a farm wife, a girl from the farm. That was a standing joke. And I think it's pretty much, your talk land today is selling in Western Ohio for $7,000, $8,000 an acre. And you got to have 400 or 500 acres. So you got a sizable investment right there. So it's, I think luck has a lot to do with it. You know, I was lucky in that respect. My dad was 38 years old when I was born, and he was involved in extension and other soil conservation programs. So, and he was also director of a bank. Time I was 20, he was 48, and I got married when I was 24, and we basically took over the operation of the farm and bought it when I was 28. Majority of the farm boys and girls that I know don't get possession of their farm to create their own destiny till in their middle 40s, early 50s. Some of them never do. The old man never gives up till he dies. So they're stuck. And it's difficult for somebody in business a long time to change. It's just, that's the way Granddad did it, you know. So had my dad been in his 20s when I was born, I wouldn't have had the opportunity I had. So, you know, I've always said that luck, it's better to be lucky than smart.